Welcome back to another episode of Mad in Love, the podcast dedicated to delving deep into the intricate world of relationships, personal healing, and growth. I'm Dr. David Hawkins, the clinical director of the Marriage Recovery Center and the Emotional Abuse Institute. With us today, one of our favorite segments, Dr. Hawkins Reacts, and with the insightful addition of our clinician and associate friend, Jonathan Glover. So, Katie, what do you have for us?
All right. Our first story today comes from someone named, I'm going to probably say Trey234 Gamer. I picked the story out because I know in the past I've had some arguments that come up from video games and just how much time individuals put to it. So with this one, it's a younger crowd, and it's an 18-year-old male who said that he's really into gaming. It's one of his major passions. And sometimes, I'm going to switch tenses here because I'm reading from his perspective. Sometimes I get pretty immersed in it. Recently, I started dating this amazing girl. Let's call her Sarah. And we hit it off and everything seemed great. However, after and I don't know what this means, CS2 update. Jonathan, do you know what that is?
Counter-Strike.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, Jonathan! Bad sign,
After that
Jonathan.
update, I've had about 3,000 hours on it, and I was spending a lot more time gaming than usual. Now, I'll admit that I kind of stopped going out that often. We usually spend most weekends together. And in my defense, I'm just excited for the update since I've literally played this game since I was 14 years old. I guess Sarah reached her breaking point because one day she decided to delete my account. I have the same password for all my accounts and she knows it. I freaking exploded and I had spent quite some money on it and I had pretty rare skins, not to mention all the games I had bought. Honestly, I'm shocked I didn't throw hands. I told her to get out and I never wanted to see her again. I think she waited for me to cool down because a few hours later, she tried setting up a meeting through my mom. I decided to confront her about it and things got pretty heated. We argued back and forth, her saying that me gaming made her feel like she wasn't a priority and that she even tried talking to me about it. I had told her that I just wanted a few weekends off to play with my childhood game, but I guess she couldn't take it. The worst part of all is that my mom took her side. I just left and I took a long walk. I was so mad I didn't even know what to do. Now I'm left wondering, am I the one to blame for this situation? Did I pass her to that point? And should I have been more attentive? Or was her action an overreaction to my behavior?
Well, he is the one to blame. I'll jump out with this one. And Jonathan, you're more versed in this whole gaming world. But come on, everybody. I mean, this whole issue of screen time and games and Instagram, and I mean, it sucks you in. It sucks you in. And this podcast is not about emotional neglect, but it could be, because here we have this woman feeling totally neglected. And I get it. I mean, I think, play this out. Let's say that it continues for the next 5 years. Let's say that they don't stay together, but let's say that he gets married at age 22 and he's still a gamer. He's still da 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 da. And their relationship, this future relationship, grows very thin, and his future mate feels totally neglected, even on the best day. So I call it an addiction, probably, whether it's an addiction, whether it's an attraction, whether it's an attachment, whatever word you want to use, it doesn't foster relationship. And that's how couples come to us, Jonathan, 20 years later, and they come saying, man, I have been neglected for 20 years. Oh, is there gaming in that woven into that fabric? Sometimes, yes. Other addictions, yes. I'll stop there. What do you think, Jonathan? You could disagree with me, but I hope you don't, but you might.
Yeah, I agree with you that the neglect to her needs and to the relationship, that's a problem, and that is on him. And good for her for bringing it up to him, trying to
Yep.
bring it to his attention and request something different, request some changes. As far as her reaction and deleting his account and all of that, that's. I would put that also into an abusive category as well. If I spend too much time with my dog, does that give you free reign to just give my dog up for adoption? I wouldn't say that that's justified there. So I think that there's some abusive behavior on that front. But going back to the emotional neglect, absolutely. And it sounds like she was concerned enough that she brought it up to him, and that should have been his opportunity to make some changes and to discuss this. You mentioned addiction. Absolutely. There's nothing specific or unique about video games in this example. You could replace it with watching football. You could replace it with exercise or over exercising. You could replace it with just about anything, and any type of behavioral addiction, called a process addiction. Anything that you can engage in has the potential to become addicting, because it still targets that pleasure reward pathway in the brain. And some of the questions that I ask about, is this recreational, which is no problem, or is this problematic, which means that it's having some effect, or is this addictive, where it actually needs some treatment? I think that those are questions worth looking at.
You make a couple of points that I don't know if I agree with. The first point you made, well, one of the first points you said, she is being abusive. I don't think I agree with that. I agree that I don't like the way she responded, but do you really mean that? Do you mean, I mean, you used the word, she's being abusive. What? I don't agree with that. Why? On what basis would you call her abusive? So, without a doubt.
It was retaliatory.
Without a doubt.
It was his property that she,
without a doubt,
eliminated. There's no way for him to get that back. And
totally
so this
true.
Is
but
time
why
and
call
money
it abusive? Why call it? But you lumped it into a category of abuse. I would say it was retaliatory for sure, passive aggressive for sure, inappropriate without a doubt. But why did you took a leap there that I'm not tracking with you?
Well, take another analogy. If he spends too much time working on his car, and he has put a lot of time and energy and put a lot of money into his car, and she sells it without his knowledge.
Totally. I'm with you on that.
I would
It's not
consider
an
that abusive as well.
Not an appropriate. Well, I don't want to keep quibbling with you on the word abuse, but it's inappropriate. So she goes and keys his car because she's furious. That we would confront her and we would challenge her and we would say, but if we define abuse as a pattern, an ongoing, consistent pattern, maybe you don't agree with that definition. I call abuse a pattern of behavior that is driven to seek power and control and dominate and diminish another. All of those would be ways to define abuse. We don't know enough about her to say, you're abusive. You were inappropriate.
Oh. Yeah, I do disagree with that. I absolutely agree with what you're saying, that a pattern of abuse, and the pattern being there, that is abusive. But I don't think that there has to be a pattern to label a behavior abusive. So name calling is abusive. If I hit somebody, if I physically assault somebody, that is abusive. And I don't have to have a history of that or a pattern of that for that one single incident behavior to be abusive.
I'm going to think that over, because that is goes against what that goes against my current ideology. And yeah, because I think of it as look, if she keys his truck, if she goes and keys his truck,
right,
that is wrong, inappropriate behavior. It's bad. I wouldn't have jumped to the word "you're abusive." So maybe can we say
I'm not calling her abusive. I'm saying the behavior is abusive.
There we go. Now we can agree. Thank you. We got alignment.
Oh yeah, no, I actually don't have much interest in doing sessions with people. I don't have a lot of interest in talking about labeling a person as good, bad, or abusive or not. I have more interest in talking about boundaries and about the behaviors and saying this behavior is always
We just had a lot of people let out a collective sigh. They agree. Not that we have to agree. Not that we have to agree. All right. The second point of contention. I don't want to quibble too much about this, but you said, gaming is not anything different than NFL football, and that's anything different than shopping. Or not sure I agree with that. I wonder if there's something kind of unique about gaming and streaming, TikToking, and I wonder if there are certain things that really are. They suck you in, and before you know it, you have spent 20. What? Katie shared a story.
3,000 hours in total that he's been playing since he's 14.
Okay,
4 years.
She makes a point there. 3,000. Anyway, are there certain things that we all need to be alerted to? That this, I know some people who create games who that's part of their industry. And you say it correctly that, man, this is meant to pull you in, and we want you to buy, and we want you to buy. Anyway, could NFL football suck someone in the same way? Maybe. I would just say maybe. I wonder if they are really categorically quite different. That not to let NFLers off or shoppers or whatever else, but is there something unique about Instagram, TikTok, gaming that really does have a higher potential for addiction? All right, I'll stop there. What do you think?
Sure. No, your point's good. And I agree that there are, if you almost look at it as a continuum, there are some activities and some behaviors that have a potential for developing a process addiction easier or more frequently. And I think your other point being that video game designers, companies are totally trying to do that. They're actually marketing for that. And that's actually become part of the game design for some games, for the microtransactions and those, the gambling reward, interactions with the game. I think my point being, though, that there are also other industries that similarly prey on people in a very similar way. But if you look at it more as a continuum, these behaviors are similar. And I've heard this story, insert whatever other behavior or interest or hobby, as far as potentially problematic.
Personal confession, and we can all give confessions like this. I hope this is okay, Katie. Censor it out if I'm offline here. Duolingo. I'm learning Spanish, but you know what I'm really doing? I'm trying to get to a higher level, to get gems, to see if I can get, so I can get platinum level. That's what I'm really doing. I'm not learning Spanish too much, but I'm getting up to gold level, platinum level. I'm competing. They've got me, and they give me little signals. You're going to miss a day. And if you miss a day, you're going to have to da-da-da. And if you da-da-da, you're going to dee-da-dee. But if you carry on, you're going to get lots of hearts and lots of stars and lots of gizmos and ka-ding, ka-ding, ka-ching, ka-ching. Kind of ridiculous, right? I step back and go like, what is the matter with you? Get a life. But no, I want the stars and the ka-chings and the dingle-dingles. Now, don't tell me, Katie and Jonathan, you can't relate, because we're all human. Don't you? Full disclosure here.
Katie, do we have a merchandise store? We need that on a shirt. I'm here
We
for
really
the
do.
ka-chings and the dingle
Jingle-
dingles.
Oh, yeah.
We're just going to make a gif of him saying that at this point.
Perfect.
Well, it's embarrassing, but that's the truth. And I hear from other people. I'm starting to get, true story, I get complaints from some other spouses who say, she, I won't get specific here, spend hours rising up on the levels of Duolingo or come on, it's universal. So anyway, back to Trey, 234. So Trey, come on, man. You got a signal here. You got a signal from your girlfriend that this is out of line and it's time for you to step back and decide, man, has this interest reached an attachment, reached a possible addiction, and your ability to say yes and no is now compromised. By the way, Jonathan, I'm sure you would agree with that's where all of us need to step back and go, man, has our ability to choose been compromised? You know, when someone, I'm way off on a tangent here now, but when a chronic late-stage alcoholic, the mate of an alcoholic says, why do you think they drink? The question isn't, well, because they're lonely or because they're bored. They're addicted. They are addicted. It's now reached, there's not a choice. They don't sit home and at 5 o'clock say, I wonder if it's time to take a drink. No, they're addicted. It's the ability to choose has been compromised. And I would say that about Trey. His ability to say, is tonight a good night to just kick back and game for an hour? Oh, no, Trey doesn't go through that. Trey says, I can't wait to get home to Okay. Do you agree with all of that, Jonathan? The ability to choose becomes compromised when we move up the scale of attachment and addiction.
Oh, absolutely. As far as addiction is concerned, I don't know about Trey in particular. It does make me, I would want to sit with him and ask him a lot of questions and dig into how has this affected his life? Has this happened at other times? Has he had concerns about how much he's been gaming?
Great
Has he
questions.
tried to stop and then he's not able to? Is there impact on other areas? Has he spent more time or money than he originally intended to? Has he lied about how much time he
all of that again, Jonathan?
Sending?
That is beautiful for those that want to slow this podcast down and check up. Here's your checklist, everyone, for wondering, has TikToking, has Instagramming, has gaming, has any of it become a problem? Jonathan, take us through the choice matrix that will say, just do all that again, what you just did.
Sure, I'll try to remember. There's a really kind of well-known screening for gambling addiction called the Lie Bet, and it's, have you ever lied about how much time that you've spent gambling or how much money that you've spent? And so I would apply it to this. Have you ever lied about how much time or money that you've spent? The other is, have you spent more time or money engaging in this activity than you originally intended? Or if you tried to set a budget for yourself, have you gone over that before?
Great question.
So if you've said, okay, I'm only going to spend 4 hours a week gaming, and then at the end of the week, your screen time report comes back and it says you just spent 37 hours playing, then that might be one indication that it's problematic. The other thing is it affecting other areas of your life? Does this affect your physical health, your mental health, your relationships, your finances, your job? Are you calling in sick? Are you playing hooky to stay at home and game? There's kind of a lot of different areas that I would go into as far as those types of questions. Do you have the need to defend? You can see in Trey's answer, he goes into sort of defending why he plays and how long and how it's important to him and the impact that it has on his life. That is a kind of an indicator light for me that this might be problematic. So lots of different things.
I'm fascinated by this topic by the way, because I've personally have had these conversations, not to put my personal life out there, but I think that with video gamers, in my interactions with them at least, there's a lot of passion, hobby, and in my mind, maybe a little bit of an obsession that gets blurred.
Yep.
And what is reasonable to another person in spending a weekend video gaming for 8 hours, which is reasonable to them. I personally have a very low tolerance for that. So there's a disagreement on how much time is an appropriate amount of time to put towards gaming. And it could be, I am just very low tolerant and I think an hour is more than enough. And the other person might think that no, an hour is nothing. I need at least 5. How could couples navigate what is really a good balance so that the question of is this a problem is solved? Because I know personally with me, I've talked to a lot of other women who have had video gamer husbands or partners have the same fight. They just disagree on the foundation of what's healthy and what's not.
I'd love to hear your thoughts, Jonathan. I have one, and that is I encourage couples to talk about comfort level, not about that's too, no, let's eliminate the judgments. In other words, you're spending too much time. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. Okay, that is an endless cycle. And it doesn't, and it's fraught with shame. You're spending too much. Okay, so let's eliminate the shame and let's just talk. Let's have a robust conversation. Honey, I'm comfortable with, here's what I'm comfortable with. And I'll make up a number. I'm comfortable with you spending an hour a night on gaming. That's what I'm comfortable with. Now, you can argue with that. You can not like it. That is my comfort level. That's what I'm sticking with. Tell me what you're comfortable with, and let's eliminate the shame, the accusatory blame. Let's get all of that extricated from our conversation. Let's understand it's going to be a difficult conversation, but here's what I'm comfortable with. Here's what I would prefer. So we use language like comfort, preference, what I would really like. And then let's arrive at something that we can both agree upon, hopefully. Anyway, that's a beginning place. Jonathan, what do you want to layer into that, or do you agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah, I like that, what you said about eliminating the judgments and the labels. And I also like to emphasize what about it is uncomfortable.
Yeah,
and
I like that.
What needs are being neglected, or what other areas, and how is this being affected? So I think that's perhaps a more useful part of the conversation, rather than going straight into arguing about the numbers and the time. I don't find, unless you've already had that other conversation, I don't find that to be a very meaningful conversation. And really the whole point of it, the heart of the problem for the individuals is missed when it just goes down to like, let's just talk about numbers.
Yeah, I want to amplify that, Jonathan and Katie. That's the point. That is the point. So let me share with you, honey, why I am feeling concerned about your gaming use or your football, whatever. I am feeling lonely. That kind of vulnerability, that draws connection, as opposed to you spend way too much time watching football or playing games or whatever. I miss you. I miss you. And you know what? If we spent more time together, you and I going for walks and playing and having fun, you know what? I don't even know if I would, let's do that. Let's take care of that. And then let's see if it's still an issue. So.
Absolutely. Okay. Especially with working with younger couples, gaming is a part of a lot of relationships with the people that I talk to. It's a part of my life. I love gaming of all types, video games, board games, and it's much more effective to talk about, like, for example, when we were having our first child, I used to just kind of game whenever, sometimes in the middle of the day on a Saturday, and sometimes in the evening, and sometimes in the morning, whatever was going on and how it fit into our schedules. But we had a very intentional conversation about this, and the conclusion was, I am not going to be using any type of screen, TV, video games, if our children are awake, because that's a time that I can engage in something that I want to engage in. I'm going to prioritize engaging with my children over video games, because that's my opportunity to do that. And after they go to bed, on some nights of the week, maybe I have an opportunity to engage in my hobbies. But again, this is just an example. I'm not saying this is the way that everybody should do it. The conversation is what needs to happen.
Another critical point here, Katie, is listen to Jonathan. They had an intentional conversation at the front end when you could have it. You can't, it's difficult to have an intentional conversation when the horse is out of the gate, as they say, or when this is a late stage and like, oh, you're really going to talk to me about how much time I spend blanking? So you have it at the front end when there's still choices to be made, and you can make choices. Now, that's not how people are going to find this podcast, probably, that it's going to be later stages. So I get it. There'll be more tension. But, and you might need help, by the way. Let's throw a plug in for that. You might need someone to help, therapist like Jonathan, who can sit with you and help you kind of calm things down and have a reasonable conversation. Difficult, but reasonable. But have it at the front end if you possibly can.
Or if your spouse comes to you and says, I have some needs and I want you to listen to what they are, let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
Stop what you're doing and have a conversation, if that relationship is important to you.
All right, I think that wraps it up today, Dr. Hawkins.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of Mad in Love. I hope our discussions and responses shed some light on the dynamics of relationships as portrayed in these Reddit stories. Always robust and interesting, real life stuff. I love it. Navigating relationships can be both challenging and rewarding. If today's stories struck a chord, or you find yourself seeking answers in your personal relationship journey, we at the Marriage Recovery Center and the Emotional Abuse Institute are here ready to lend a hand. So you could start with a free 15-minute phone chat with our dedicated and skilled client care specialists. You can visit us at www.marriagerecoverycenter.com. As always, if our podcast resonates with you, please do us a favor. Leave us a 5-star review and share some insights or stories of your own. Interact with us. We're excited to hear from you. Every review helps us reach out to more listeners in need. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, ensuring you're always updated with our in-depth discussions on high conflict relationships and the road to healing and transformation. All right. So thank you again for being part of our Mad in Love family. Take care. God bless.